Good morning. I hope that your Wednesday's off to a good start. Mine is so far. Feels almost like spring out here. The coffee of the preacher mug made by my favorite potter. So today is in the life of the church Ash Wednesday, and I suppose that a fair number of you will find your way to an Ash Wednesday service at some point today. And if you're in Hamlet, I hope that you'll be with me in worship at First United Methodist Church. We'll be having our service at 7 o'clock this evening. Ash Wednesday, and I spent a bit of time on Ash Wednesday and Lent last week as well. Ash Wednesday begins the season of Lent. And this is a practice that goes back 1,400 years. The official setting of an Ash Wednesday, 46 days before Easter, dates back to 601. 601, done by Pope Gregory the Great. And if you ask why 46 days instead of 40, because we say there are 40 days in Lent. 46 days because Sundays don't count in Lent. Every Sunday is a celebration of the resurrection. And so if you are practicing any sort of a self-denial during Lent, then Sundays don't count. So if you're giving up chocolate for Lent, have a Snickers bar on Sunday. And of course, something like the season of Lent with an Ash Wednesday had been practiced for some time, even before 601. But it's 601 that it is sort of established formally by the Pope. And of course, the use of ashes as a symbol for both mourning and for penitence goes back as old as the Bible itself. Throughout the Old Testament, people used sackcloth and ashes for two purposes. One, as a symbol of mourning, and also as a symbol of contrition, of penitence. The very early church, going back to probably the 2nd century, it was the practice to baptize new believers on Easter Sunday, and these would be catechized. They would be taught the faith in the weeks leading up to it, and it was also expected that they would spend some time in a period of prayer and fasting before they were going to be baptized on Easter. Easter also became the accepted day when people had fallen away. Particularly, this is an era of off and on persecution of the early church by the Romans, and if someone had fallen away and wanted to come back into the fold, it was expected again they would spend some time in fasting and prayer before they were welcomed back in. And so we are here on Ash Wednesday, the traditional beginning of the season of Lent. I was reading this morning, and the famous Methodist preacher and bishop, Duke Divinity School professor, Will Wellman, sent out an email, and I want to borrow from him because it was really good. He said that Ash Wednesday and Lent, it keeps us from being in denial. So I think it's an interesting play in words. We normally think about Lent as we're going to deny ourselves, we're going to give something up for Lent. And he said that Ash Wednesday and Lent keep us from being in denial. And in this case, it keep us from being in denial about who we are. We are mortal. We are broken, And to quote from Genesis chapter 3, we are dust. From dust you came, to dust you shall return. And Lent forces us to be honest about that. We aren't given the option of just sort of being in denial. It's been probably 3 or 4 years ago. I was at an event, and I won't name the location or the person, and then to protect the identity of the guilty. I was at an event, and the speaker was talking about how we need to be reconciled to God. And the woman who was there got really upset, like really viscerally upset about that language, about us needing to be reconciled to God. And I remember thinking to myself, this is strange. Like that's sort of foundational. And with that in mind, I want to read the lectionary epistle reading. The lectionary epistle reading for Ash Wednesday every year is from 2 Corinthians. This will be the last part of 2 Corinthians 5:20 going through 6:10. We implore you on behalf of Christ, be reconciled to God. For our sake he made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. Working together with him, then, we appeal to you not to receive the grace of God in vain. For he says, in a favorable time I have listened to you, and in a day of salvation I have helped you. Behold, now is the favorable time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. We put no obstacle in anyone's way, so that no fault may be found in our ministry. But as servants of God, we commend ourselves in every way, by great endurance in afflictions, hardships, calamities, beatings, imprisonments, riots, labors, sleepless nights, hunger, by purity, knowledge, patience, kindness, the Holy Spirit, genuine love, by truthful speech in the power of God, with the weapons of righteousness at the right hand and for the left, through honor and dishonor, through slander and praise. We are treated as impostors, and yet as true, as unknown, and yet well known, as dying, and behold we live, as punished, and yet not killed, as sorrowful, yet always rejoicing, as poor, yet making many rich, as having nothing, yet possessing everything. The lectionary epistle reading for tonight. This, of course, is Paul speaking. We implore you, be reconciled to God. We implore you, be reconciled to God. He made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that we might be the righteousness of God. Now is the acceptable day of salvation. Be reconciled to God. Be reconciled to God. It is the basic nature, it is the basic recognition that all of us by nature are estranged from God. Be reconciled to God. Part of Lent is the basic recognition that all of us by nature are estranged from God. It's who we are. By virtue of Adam's fall at the dawn of time, we are estranged from God. And Paul's plea is be reconciled. And that begs the question then, how are we reconciled to God? We are reconciled to God through the work of Jesus Christ, an atoning death and resurrection. Be reconciled to God. Today is the acceptable day of salvation. And I want to make this point. It's important. You might say that we are reconciled to God because I come to Christ. I repented of my sins. And that is partially true. Ultimately, we are reconciled to God because Christ comes to us. We are reconciled to God because Christ comes to us because of his atoning death and resurrection. We are reconciled to God by virtue of that, not because of anything that I do. We come to Christ, we have faith and we believe, and those are necessary, but those are only valid and only important because Christ comes to us first. Christ always makes the first move. Christ comes to us. Christ offered himself as the one true, holy, and perfect sacrifice, to use language borrowed from Hebrews. So he comes to us first. He is the atoning sacrifice. He is the one who became sin, who knew no sin. So we come to Christ, but only because he has come to us first. Behold, now is the acceptable day of salvation. I hope that many of you will find your way into a worship service today or this evening, wherever you are, and especially if you're here in Hamlet at First United Methodist Church. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.